Welcome into HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. Good morning, good Wednesday morning. You're in the middle of your week, so you're coasting, right? You're halfway home. Hopefully, you're still thinking a little basketball. Football season's underway, right? We got camp, fall camp for the football team. Razorbacks gearing up for another Sam Pittman era season. But you got plenty of basketball to talk about. Arkansas Razorbacks continue. This will be a really heavily focused segment once again on the class of 2026 because we're in the heart of that recruiting cycle in Arkansas, efforting getting players on campus for visits. We know of three that have visits scheduled, a fourth prospect that is in the middle of ironing out a visit date. We've talked about him. We'll kind of at the end of this segment sweep back through some of those players that have at least a couple of them that not only have Arkansas visits planned that are publicly known, but they've also released just very recently their list of top schools. One list is about half the size of the other, um, and so we'll hit that at the end and kind of remind everybody where we stand right now in terms of planned and scheduled visits, and also what these lists look like. And again, the teams on these lists for these players are the teams we continue to talk about, especially the top three or four teams at the top of each list, and how we view right now the pecking order, or probably the programs that are really maybe a little further advanced in securing a commitment from each of these players. Probably the favorites or the leaders. And Arkansas is in a good position anytime you look at players that are going to come in and visit and they've already expressed an intention to come to your campus. That's always a positive when it's John Calipari. I say it all the time. Big advantage for him because of the wild success he's had as a recruiter. Good early morning, yeah. It is early, all right. It's an early morning as I do these now daily early. Just too much going on during the day for me now, not to get these out of the way. We'll have some later in the day, I'm sure, at some point again. But we're going early daily lately. But the first thing I want to talk about today, we got a lot to say about J.J. Andrews. Tuesday was a big day for him in terms of a lot of different things that dropped on social media relative to him. He continues to pick up what I considered, honors, accolades. And then also, had one recruiting service update, the lone recruiting service that I've, been quite frankly flabbergasted by how low they've had him ranked. And so their new rankings came out. He did move up. It just doesn't seem enough, and it's not by just a little bit. We're not nitpicking here. We think J.J. Andrews, the 5-star, 6'6" wing at a Little Rock Christian Academy. His dad, Sean Andrews, was an offensive lineman, All-American at Arkansas back in the day. Went on to have an All-Pro, was an NFL All-Pro lineman with the Philadelphia Eagles. And Deshaun's been a star. He's a two-time state champion in basketball. He's now a two-time Nike EYBL Peach Jam champion. He's a two-time MVP, once as a state championship winner, and then most recently here in late July, just a few weeks ago, wrapped up at his second consecutive Nike Peach Jam title and was named MVP of the big circuit, the 17 and under. That's as good as it gets. So he's been on a roll. And we talked about it through the spring, May when he committed mid-May. We were saying at the time that these services that don't have him rated as a 5-star, they're whack. They're not in line with reality the way we saw it. And then as he proved himself, you started to see the rankings come back up. ESPN had originally had him ranked top 15, a 5-star, moved him outside the top 20, a 4-star, got him back, moved him up now up to 12th was the last ESPN update. And that was prior to the Nike Peach Jam run. So we'll see when when ESPN updates its rankings again, we'll see if J.J. Andrews has been rightfully moved into the top 10. I believe he's proven himself now as not only a 5-star, but a top 10 caliber player. So number 12 in ESPN and a 5-star. 247 Sports also will undergo an update, I think, at some point rather soon. But he's 13th there, one spot lower than he is at ESPN, but that's the highest rated 4-star. So 247 Sports does not view J.J. Andrews as a 5-star currently, but the highest rated 4-star, one slot away from that glorious 5th star, earning that, which he's done enough to earn it, but that's where that service has it. On3 Sports / Rivals, both of those agencies recently merged. So we'll call them On3 Rivals for now, for lack of a better descriptor. Just went through an update. The last time I checked, they had him ranked 40th. Apparently, they claim they bumped him up from 38th. So they're saying he was 38th up to number 24. So that rankings updates for On3 Rivals came out yesterday on Tuesday, and JJ's moved up 14 spots. You think, well, that's pretty good. Well, 24th. I mean, I've said it over and over again. There aren't 10 players better than him. I have him ranked inside my top 5. I released my own top 25 in late July, the day before Nike Peach Jam concluded. So July 19th, I think. And I put out my top 25, and I've seen all these players in person, in addition to what, live stream opportunities, not just highlights, but actually watching these players at their best and worst. And I went ahead and ranked the top 25. I have JJ ranked 4th. So to see On3 Sports, I'm assuming ESPN and 247, when they update, if they don't have JJ moving up into the top 10, which I think he should, if not, you hope that both of them have come around now to having him as a 5-star. Of course, ESPN does, and 247 Sports right there on the cut line, so let's see. But On3 doesn't have him close right now. On3 valued 2 players, Tyron Stokes and Brandon McCoy Jr., as 5-star players. So only have 2 5-stars in the entire class. Good morning, Kevin. Appreciate all you do. Thank you. Yeah, greetings, salutations, and good mornings to everybody. Thank you for joining in today. And it is early, so I appreciate it. A lot of folks will catch this later through the day, but for those that are the hardy souls in here now, let's continue to talk hoops. I got it on my brain at all times. Even in my sleep, I'm dreaming about basketball. But JJ Andrews, so I feel like he's been slept on by On3. I'm not going to call out individual names of people that put this together. I'm not going to call out individual names of players who I think it's crazy to think there should be ranked ahead of JJ Andrews when I look at the top 25, and he comes in at number 24 in this update. So I'm not going to single out anybody and go that route. I'm just going to talk about JJ Andrews, who I think's proven everything. And has done all he can. And what's interesting is on a day where this rankings update came out, that gave us plenty of talking points and fuel to come on here and just complain and be negative and look at it as, the glass is half empty. I mean, it is to me, having him where On3 Rivals has him is malpractice. If you're cover basketball recruiting and you look at that class and this is where you've got him slotted, there are different ways to put together rankings. One way to do it, how much value, how much weight do you put in terms of the player's readiness for the next level, what they bring to the table, how will they impact winning, what kind of role can they have even in year one, all of those things at the next level. Well, the next level from high school, and in terms of, especially when you're talking top 25 amongst players, is the high major level. All right. Another way to do it is to project ahead even beyond that. Which of these players have one and done potential? How do you project them all the way out as a pro player? And so you can take that into account. So, the best defense I have for this ranking is maybe they're thinking less of JJ as a pro prospect. There are question marks, but I factored even that part in when I did my rankings. I have him 4th in the country. And you don't do that unless you see a path for a player to be an eventual NBA player, and that you think that they'll fit as an NBA player beyond what impact they can have in college. Did I have questions about whether he's a surefire, no doubt, one and done lottery pick? I have questions about that. But effectively, as the 4th overall player, as a 5-star where I have it, I'm really not questioning a whole lot his ability to play in the NBA eventually and be an NBA player. So those are 2 different things. But at the same time, I say that with the confidence also saying there is a pathway for sure for him to prove himself in a year of college to be not only a first rounder, but a lottery pick. There's a way for that to get done. All of that depends on his continued progress and development. A lot of the things are already built in: his frame, his athleticism, the competitive fire that he plays with, the fact that he plays the right way. And so my assessment of what JJ is as a player was kind of backed up yesterday by another set of, let's call them, prospect rankings. And this is where I continue to make, I've said it over and over again on these segments. We're going to do it again. I go back to the Moses Moody effect. What happened with Moses when he got bumped out of 5-star status, whatever ridiculous reason, and left outside as a 4-star? It was a little more extreme than what's going on with JJ, but at the same time, I was flabbergasted that he wasn't viewed as a 5-star. He had an NBA superpower 3-point shooting. He had broad shoulders plus arm length, the lead arm length for his height. He'd faced the best players in the country, and Moses, for however they got to it, the services had him as a 4-star, ranked outside the top 25 for the most part. And then when you started seeing mock drafts come out while he was finishing up the high school part of his career, getting ready to go to college, you had the mock drafts that disagreed. Most of the mock drafts had him as a first-round value. And when you went through the first round, 30 players, a lot of those mock drafts had international players or older players in the college game who weren't in his same class in that first round. So he was one of, 15 or 18, however many players, maybe fewer than that, projected for the first round out of his class of 2020, which effectively is saying this guy is a 5-star. And that's what made me feel even more confident in my assessments. I was attacking all the national recruiting analysts at that time for what they did. And then to see the mock drafts come out, it verified what I thought. And then I was proven right by the fact of Moses Moody had one of the best freshman seasons ever at Arkansas, one of the top players in the SEC, damn near earned SEC Player of the Year as a true freshman, went on to be the school's first and only one and done at the time, and was a lottery pick, back into the lottery 14th. So it was even better what I was projecting coming into that season, a little bit better. I thought first round value, I didn't have it as a lock for a lottery. All right, I'm talking a lot of Moses Moody to now fast forward to where we are now. And the same thing is happening. Yes, a couple of the services have gotten better, 12 and 13. That's better than where Moses was. We just said at ESPN and 247, but 247 still doesn't value JJ as a 5-star. So there's that part of what I think is a shortcoming in those projections. And of course, ESPN doesn't have it as highly as I do, but guess who does? Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report, the NBA draft guru over there, one of the best to do it in the business. I reference his mock drafts as much as any other of the top guys that do it. And there's other ones. Jonathan Giavone with Draft Express, been a big part of ESPN's NBA draft coverage for years. He's separated recently from ESPN, but one of the best in the business. You look at Sam Vicini and the group over at The Athletic, there's some good ones. Jonathan Wasserman's one of those. He put out, I think it's his first 2027 NBA mock draft yesterday, the same day that these On3 rankings updated. And guess what? JJ Andrews is the 4th overall player projected into the 2027 NBA draft. So a couple of things. They've got him slotted 4th. It's exactly where I have him slotted in his class. When you look at the top 4 picks that are projected for that 2027 draft, they're all coming from this class of 2026. So basically, I've got him slotted accurately relative to what an NBA draft expert sees. And again, this goes back to lining up with how I was judging Moses Moody versus the recruiting analyst field versus what the NBA draft gurus were saying about him, where I saw the player was more in line with the experts for the NBA than these high school recruiting analysts. And I'm not trying to knock all of them and say they don't do a great job, but sometimes they don't do a great job. And in fact, it's not just one player. But any idea or notion, well, McPherson, you threw him in your top 5 because you're a homer. No, that was a fair, objective assessment based on watching the field. I'm out there at these events. I see all these players in person multiple times, and I feel confident when I do these things. In fact, outside of JJ Andrews being projected 4th overall, a couple of things about that, by the way. If that were to be true, if that were to play out, he would be the highest ranked drafted player. That'd be the highest draft spot of all time in the history of the NBA draft for an Arkansas Razorback. The GOAT, Sidney Moncrief, holds down that distinction right now, going 5th overall in the 1979 NBA draft to the Milwaukee Bucks. So that's the highest a Razorback's ever been drafted. JJ Andrews, if this, things are going to change. We're not saying that this is the final assessment. Of course it's not. But just the initial salvo has so much respect on his name, not only for this class, but that is a draft that also got other. This is a first round mock that Wasserman put out. He's also got international players in that first round. He has players from that'll be college veterans of more than just a one and done year, like JJ in the class of 2026. Players that are projected here, some other older guys in there, including a couple of Razorbacks who will be freshmen this year. He projects both five-star, top 10 rated five-star guards coming in this 2025 class, Darius Acuff Jr. and Malik Thomas, in the low 20s, low to mid 20s in this same draft. So he's got 3 Razorbacks projected in the first round. JJ Andrews, the king of the hill, at 4th overall. He's got the number 1 player going in the draft at Tyron Stokes. That's number 1 on my board. All right, every service has him ranked number 1. I recently said Caleb Holt, ranked 5th and 6th in most services, was rated too low. I thought he should be higher. And when I put out my top 25, I have Caleb Holt as tied for second, the second best player in this class, tied with Jordan Smith Jr. So I had them both as 2, right behind Stokes. So Stokes and the combination of Caleb Holt and Jordan Smith Jr. as the second, tied for second. So your top 3 players there in this mock draft, going number 2 overall, is Caleb Holt. So Wasserman sees his value similarly to how I do. And we'll see if the other services, as they update, raise him up. But I don't think any of them have him inside the top 5. And if they do, not even as highly as I have him and as how Wasserman sees him. And again, I put these rankings out on July 19th. I haven't changed them. That's been out on my Twitter page. It's been published over at HogvilleNET. JJ Andrews, again, number 4 overall. Jordan Smith Jr., Wasserman has him being selected 5th in the draft. Again, I have him as the tied for second with Caleb Holt in terms of ranking that class. And we know Jordan Smith Jr. has an official visit date set to Arkansas for September 20th, 21st. It's a weekend where the football Hogs won't be on campus. He won't get that fan atmosphere, but that's another significant projection here. Cam Williams, he's a big forward. I have him ranked 9th in my top. I had him higher than most of the services did. And we'll see when they update. Some of them haven't updated yet. On3 just did. But I had him in my top 10. I had him at number 9. He's projected number 7 in the draft overall, pretty close to how I have him slotted in my 2026 rankings. 2027 mock draft is a one and done. Wasserman has him going 7th overall. Brandon McCoy Jr., the 6'5" guard out of California, who I have ranked 5th on my board in 2026. He's projected being drafted 9th overall in that first round, a lottery pick, according to Wasserman. I had Christian Collins, who Arkansas recruited for a while, the 6'8" combo forward. Mika Muirnin, we know he visited Arkansas last year, another 6'10", stretch 4, versatile. These were 3-4 versatile combo guys. In theory, as they continue to develop, we'll see what happens. But I had them tied for 10th in my rankings. I had a couple of ties, tied for second place in the rankings, tied for 10th, Christian Collins and Mika Muirnin. Wasserman has Collins going 11th. He's got Mika Muirnin going 12th. So he's got them back-to-back in his draft, and I effectively had them as a draw in the same range of where he's got them projected drafted. This is really interesting. Anthony Thompson, who I covered on the Adidas 3SSB circuit. Like I said, I've covered all these guys in person. Anthony Thompson, some folks have him ranked as high as 5th. I think On3 had him 5th or 6th yesterday. I slotted him as the 13th best player in the class, not as highly, but really a good player, 6'9". And I had him slotted at 13th in my top 25. Wasserman has him going 13th in his draft. So identical position there. These are really close. Caleb Gaskins, who he's got going 14th, the final lottery pick in his upcoming draft projection for 2027. I had him ranked 18th in my top 25 rankings for the class of 2026. So again, I threw out a lot of these to show how the way I'm looking at players, I'm not only looking at what their NBA draft value might be as a one and done, but I'm thinking about and what could their impact be immediately on the college level. It's not just about the NBA draft, but the lone point of argument for On3 is to say, well, we've seen how he's been a winner at the high school level. You can't deny that. Again, a combination of 4 championships, 2 in-state, state titles, 2 Peach Jams, which is the ultimate in grassroots spring and summer because Nike's the best circuit. So you can't argue with that, and the couple of MVPs that he's got. So the best case you've got is I just don't see the long-term projection and how that looks for the NBA. But now you've got one mock draft that's come out that sees it differently, and has JJ effectively slotted where I do, where I believe he should be. So again, I'm not trying to make this about me. What I'm saying is I take these things seriously. You could, say it doesn't matter, but these players are, they're competing for spots on the McDonald's All-American Game roster. I don't see anything that's going to derail JJ Andrews from getting that and all the other All-Star games. In fact, he just picked up another honor yesterday. So in addition to a strong pro opinion coming out from one of the best to do these mock drafts, Jonathan Wasserman, in addition to that, and despite what On3 had in its update yesterday, also yesterday, the prestigious Slam Magazine Slam Summer Classic roster, the top players, it's an all-star game. So this is one of the first all-star games. It'll play out this summer on August 18th. So less than 2 weeks from now. And it's every year. This is the 7th volume of the Slam sponsored Summer Classic at famous Rucker Park. I mean, you're talking Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, some of the greatest players to come through and play basketball, famously played out at Rucker Park in Harlem in New York City. And so JJ Andrews will take part in that Slam Summer Classic All-Star game August 18th. So he's been invited. This is an honor, a big honor to take part of that. And there'll be plenty more to come. We know he just participated last week in the CP3 Chris Paul, Jason Tatum joint elite camp out in Las Vegas. Yesterday, we brought you updates on the 3 Razorbacks that are current Hogs: Malik Thomas, Billy Richmond III, and Carter Knox. All 3 of them took part in the college part of that camp. And then there was a high school part, 54 players split about half evenly, 27 high school, 27 college, and they competed against each other in their own age brackets. They didn't, in other words, high school didn't compete against college or vice versa. And so we saved, given the scouting report, we gave the NBA scouts that my sources, have a couple of them that were there, gave the scouting reports for the 3 current Hogs yesterday. And I said I was holding off JJ for another time because I knew that the On3 rankings update was coming out soon. I'd heard it would be Tuesday, but I wasn't sure. Later Tuesday, and we had our show early Tuesday morning like we're doing now. So that hadn't come out yet. I kind of wanted to package everything together because not only do you have Jonathan Wasserman, who is a draft guru for Bleacher Report and the director of the NBA draft for that outlet. And this is by the way, Wasserman's work is what NBA.com, the official website of the NBA, that is the draft information that they typically feature when they publish on their website. So he's respected. But now we've got an NBA scout weighing in on JJ. And one of the first things the scout said was he has an NBA ready frame. So the word NBA from an NBA scout says he has an NBA ready frame. We've said all along, if you look at him now, he looks like he could step onto a college court. He looks like a college veteran. Well, here's an NBA scout. One of the first things that comes out of his mouth talking about JJ Andrews, just seeing him play last week, is he's got an NBA ready frame. All right, so he's already starting to check boxes for that level of basketball. And they say, he's physically, one of the notes was physically imposing. So these are notes coming from these scouts. College ready. So he's got a NBA ready frame, but as a complete player, as the player in totality beyond his body, he's college ready. So he's got another year of high school. All right. He's got a senior season to play. And the assessment was he's college ready now. That is huge. What have we said all along? This guy impacts winning. He's going to step on the court on day one and be hard to take off the court. He's a day one starter value, blah, 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 blah. We keep singing that. And now we got backup. We got backup. NBA scouts. Shoots with confidence, but still needs better consistency. All right, what did we say? We said that he raised the level of his three-point shooting on modest volume. When you went back to May in those 3 of the 4 Nike EYBL sessions, the spring stuff, remember, coaches only had 1 live eval session, but there were 3 sessions total. And JJ came out of when you added everything up, including the 4th EYBL session that was played in July, the week before Peach Jam began. When the dust settled, he was on, it was modest volume, but he was a 40% shooter from three, playing on, again, on the highest grassroots level against most of the best players in the country, so his peers. So the percentage was really, really good. Catch and shoot mostly. And I continue to praise him for keeping his volume down for the time being. He's not trying to do things that are outside of his wheelhouse. And we talked about the grind of going from that first week in that mid-July week where it was the first July live eval period, and there were a lot of, that final fourth and final session, and then you stayed in North Augusta, South Carolina, and you carried over into Nike Peach Jam. And so there was a grind. I mean, he played like, what was it, 11 games in 10 days. And what I noticed was, and we talked about it here, he started limiting his three-point attempts. And technically, during the week of Peach Jam, he was 0 for 7 in 11 games from three. So he drilled down even more on the shot taking from three. He didn't have a lot of success there. But when the dust settled, he settled on the session play, which spread out over 4 sessions and was, even though it was a modest volume, it was much higher than the amount of shots he was attempting from three in Peach Jam. He was a 40% shooter. So I think some of that, if you were really focused on how good he was in Peach Jam, a part of that was he was playing to his strengths, which is the best way to go about delivering a win. He did, and you can say, well, maybe there was a sacrifice there because he didn't show as much from three. But he did enough. The body of work starting back in May was good enough, including NBPA Top 100 camp. Don't forget that in June, when you got off the circuits, it's like an all-star camp, a different setting, and now you've got guys from Adidas and Under Armour, and the top players in the country, and they're pulling them from all the different shoe circuits. And he showed out over there. He's arguably the best player at NBPA Top 100 camp in June. So all of these opportunities, to me, J.J. Andrews showed a lot. But for the NBA guys now to see him in a camp setting, an elite camp setting, and come off with this idea that he's shooting with confidence. Yeah, they're acknowledging he needs to be more consistent, but that's been a work in progress. And he showed it percentage-wise. The numbers are the numbers. So we're not saying that he's a gunner from three, but we're saying that part of his game is emerging. And when you look at the body of work of the EYBL session play, once again, he was efficient. 40%, you could argue, is elite. Moving forward, if he is able to maintain that, he'll be doing just fine as a 3-and-D wing, which is the projection for him. Just like it is for Carter Knox and a Billy Richmond III right now, they're viewed as 3-and-D wings. We'll see what more those two can prove as in their upcoming sophomore seasons, potentially both moving to the next draft, the 2026 draft, in terms of maybe being viewed as a guard. But for now, these guys are in that 3-and-D wing wheelhouse, and that includes J.J. Andrews. Buckley, my assistant, is weighing in over here. I think he's given me an affirmative agreement. There he is. Can you see Buckley? There. He's never made an appearance on the show before. He's having his own special. Yesterday, I was having a coughing fit. Today, Buckley's chiming in himself. All right, so what else did the scout say about JJ? This I thought was interesting. Poised as a ball handler and poised as a ball handler and makes good reads while playing through contact. That's everything we were talking about, how his game had really already had, that was already part of the strong part of his game going off Peach Jam last year. When he initially got bumped up to top 15 in the country and a 5-star by ESPN, was his crossover drive setup game as a slasher. And he just kind of picks and chooses when he's in his drive setup. He can get all the way to the basket. He can play through that contact, like this scout is saying, but he also makes good decisions. He will get off the ball, whether it's a defensive rebound, throwing it over the defense in transition, so a facilitator in the open court. But on those drives, getting to the basket in the half court, he also makes good decisions and makes passes out of that and sets up teammates for open looks. And so this is something that was of note with this NBA scout. And so JJ went out and again, showed some of the same things that we've seen that we think stand out and what make him ready for the next level, which is college ready as a player, NBA ready frame. Um, one of the scouts that I talked to described him as an explosive athlete. Now, he's not the kind of high riser, easy high riser like a Billy Richmond III, but he is strong. He is a plus athlete. And you combine that with his he has a determination of attacking the rim, and there is explosiveness in there. And so I can't disagree with that. So when I look through everything that the scouts are saying about J.J. Andrews, they see a path for him as an NBA player, because at least one of these two scouts will shut this things down and not even give any nod to anything NBA relevant if he looks at a prospect and just doesn't see it. He won't use words like NBA ready frame. He wouldn't even say that. He'd just say he's got a frame, probably would have limited that to a college, description. And so we'll see. I mean, JJ's got still a senior season of high school before he's a Razorback. But some of these things are encouraging. Not only the mock draft projection, which is in line with how I have him ranked in his class, but then you hear from NBA scouts, and most of the stuff was positive. There wasn't a lot. I didn't see anything that was negative, other than becoming more consistent with his shot conversion. They're talking perimeter. So, we know that JJ has become an effective mid-range shooter, not just a slasher getting all the way to the basket. Again, if you were watching solely the Peach Jam part of it, he took fewer and fewer, and only 3-point shots, but those pull-up mid-range shots, it was mostly about willing his way to the rack, where he was, especially in the second halves of games when he took over and blew out some close games and then won a game that went to the wire by making free throws. So he gave you a little bit of everything in that championship run. And so on a day where I share, we went through the NBA scouting feedback from that camp, the Slam Summer Classic All-Star Game invitation, which is a big deal, and then Wasserman's mock draft. It's not going to overshadow the talking point that On3 Rivals got it wrong, but ESPN and 247 Sports, even though I don't fully agree where they are now, maybe when their update comes out, it's a little bit better for JJ, more in line what I think at minimum he should be, which is a top 10 rated 5-star. I don't think there are 10 players better than him. So that's how I see it. We spent most of the time here, obviously today, again, talking about J.J. Andrews. He's the Arkansas's lone commitment right now. You're trying to build around it. Jordan Smith Jr., who we just talked about in that mock draft, 6'2" guard out of Virginia. We've talked so much about source information. I have one source who is a trusted source, a high major assistant who thinks Arkansas is in the lead. Other folks I talked to, multiple, that think it's Duke. I've had at least 2 opinions out there that it's going to be Georgetown. So if you added everything up, Arkansas is probably third in terms of the source information I get, running third right now in terms of who's projecting who to be in the lead there. But he did put out a top 6 yesterday. And of course, it's Arkansas, Duke, and Georgetown. Kentucky, where he also has a visit scheduled. Remember, planned to come into Arkansas the weekend of September 20th through the 21st. Kentucky, October 10th through 12th. On one of these recent segments, I pointed out the fact that runs, there's an overlap between that planned Kentucky visit when they're going to have their Big Blue Madness event and USA Junior National basketball team having a mini camp. Now, he could skip that mini camp, but he's been a big part of the Team USA stuff, including starting every game for the U19 FIBA World Cup gold medal run, 7-0, perfect record over there in Switzerland last month. And so let's see if that causes him to alter his visit date. Maybe he keeps the visit date and doesn't take part in the mini camp. Not sure that he's required to do that or needs to do that. Just something I noticed on the schedule, maybe make much ado about nothing. But in addition to the Arkansas, Duke, Georgetown, and Kentucky, he's also got Indiana and Syracuse on his list, on his top 6. He released a top 6. So if you remember, the dad told me as soon as we announced the Arkansas visit dates, the dad told me that. I tweeted it, breaking news. And the other things we talked about on the next segment that I did later the same day was the fact that the dad said that's it for visits. He'd already previously visited Duke. He'd previously visited Louisville, who's not in this top 6. He's been on Georgetown's campus. The dad said a million times, well, he's from Fairfax, Virginia, backyard Georgetown. I mean, that's basically across the street. and you hang out with with the basketball folks over there. That made sense. But the player, about a day or two after I spoke to the dad, and he said, "That's it." Jordan Smith Jr., after senior told me that, junior went on the record with another reporter and said, "Look, I may take other visits. I may revisit some schools I've been to." Syracuse was brought up. I think Indiana was as well. So we'll see what actually shakes out there. As far as we know, the only two visits publicly known right now are Arkansas and Kentucky, which is what the dad shared with me and said would be it. So far, dad, based on what we know, it's in line with what he said, but doesn't mean something else changes there. There's been talk that Jordan Smith Jr. waits it out through the spring to make a decision. And so anything could change. Who are perceived as front runners now could be different later, or the order of who we think the front runners are. Again, we think it's the top three in some combination of Arkansas, Duke, and Georgetown. Anything like that could change the longer something like that plays out. Of course, NIL is going to factor into these level of players. So a top six released by Jordan Smith Jr. Irfan Diane on Monday. We did not talk about it on Tuesday's show. I did not get into this, but Diane, as expected. If you remember over the weekend, his guardian had told me that he'd like his player to be down to a top 8, but it would likely be at least 10, maybe as many as 12 schools. Boom, it came out a couple of days later on Monday of this week, and Diane releases a top 12. Diane has had different visit dates to Arkansas. Most recently, he confirmed with me over the weekend, reached out just to say, "Hey, I'm visiting Arkansas September 12th through the 14th, so no longer the final weekend of August, but September 12th through the 14th. Once again, like Jordan Smith Jr., his visit will not be accompanied by a Razorback football game where he gets to see the fan base in action on the Hill when he's on that visit. The football Hogs will be on the road. So Irfan Diane, that's the visit date. We already knew that, but he released the top 12, which I didn't go over. But it's Arkansas. Houston, who's the perceived leader for now. He's already taken an unofficial visit there Friday of last week. We'll be back out for an official visit in October to Houston. He's also got UConn in his top 12, a school that we think ultimately we'll probably see a visit date with UConn. We'll see Kentucky. He has a visit date set up. Kentucky's on the list. Kansas is on the list. Oregon, Indiana, Louisville. Well, I can't read my own writing on some of these. I was scribbling fast. Georgia Tech, Virginia, Washington, and I've left one on here that I can't read. Purdue. I don't know how I screwed up writing Purdue. It doesn't look anything like that. But that's his top 12. Tay Kenny, the 6'2", 5-star guard, overtime elite from the state of Kentucky, released a top 12 as well after we knew his Arkansas visit date, which is slated for September 26th to the 28th. On the 27th, that's a Saturday, the football Hogs will be in town. Big one, hosting Notre Dame. So he'll get to taste that fan base if he makes that visit. He's got multiple visits set up before the Arkansas visit. He's already taken several, including the in-state schools, Louisville and Kentucky. And so there's that for Tay Kenny. But again, Kenny had put out a top 12. And so, again, with Diane and I got guys like Diane and Kenny, their top 12s probably won't all get visits. With Jordan Smith Jr., his is a tighter list and makes more sense based on the visits he's taken, what he's scheduled, and what he's verbalized he might also add to his visit schedule. It's a little more in line with what seems reasonable based on what you hear. But again, if you wait till the spring, which is what he's indicated and his camp has indicated, that's not to say other schools wouldn't come onto the list and maybe get a visit, programs that we don't know about right now. And these are all framed as top schools, not final lists. What's the difference? I don't know. But I guess it leaves open the possibility of adding someone and changing your top pecking order. That's what Cole Clower did. He had a top 8, and then Arkansas and Kentucky offered right after the end of Peach Jam, and now he's moved Arkansas and Kentucky into the 7 teams that we know about that he's either got visits scheduled for, with 5 of 7, and 2 that we don't know the visit dates yet. And I came on yesterday and reported, well, that's because even though he intends to visit Arkansas, a source told me the date hasn't been finalized. It's not been settled on yet. So we thought, at any time now we could learn of that. We haven't yet. So we'll keep our eyes peeled and open to see what happens there. But Cole Clore, the 6'7", sharp shooting, we'll call him a combo forward, small forward, out of the state of North Carolina. We've talked a lot about him in recent days because of that expressed desire to visit Arkansas. All right, we're going to wrap things up. We went 40 minutes today. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. Buckley McPherson joined us on the show today. He was my Ed McMahon, if you go old school with the Tonight Show, and Johnny Carson. We enjoy doing this. If you haven't done it already, please hit subscribe, like, and share. That helps us out, helps Buckley out. He's got more to say, I'm sure. We'll try to work him in as we move forward on these shows. But thanks for being here. Appreciate all of you. If something breaks, it's relevant, we got to come back live, we will. If not, it'll be tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Be good. Appreciate all of you. We'll see you soon.